What if tonight, while the world is quiet, Allah is writing the next chapter of your life? What if somewhere in the unseen, your future spouse is part of what is being written tonight? Laylatul Qadr is not an ordinary night. It is the night when angels descend to the earth, the night when mercy spreads across the world, the night when Allah writes matters that will unfold in the coming year. On this night, destinies quietly shift. Doors that were closed can open. Paths that looked impossible can suddenly begin to move. And sometimes, the meeting between two hearts that were meant for each other begins with a single dua made on this night. Think about that. Somewhere in the world, there may already be a person who will one day become your spouse. Someone you have never met. Someone whose story has been unfolding under the same divine plan guiding your life. And tonight, Laylatul Qadr may be one of the nights when Allah begins bringing those two paths closer together. But most people will miss this moment. They will let this night pass like any other night. They will sleep through the hours when the doors of mercy are wide open. But the believer understands something powerful. Tonight might be the night when one sincere dua changes the direction of your future. A dua for peace. A dua for guidance. A dua for the person who will stand beside you for the rest of your life. So before this blessed night slips away, before the darkness turns into dawn, speak to Allah about the person you have never met, because the one who wrote their name is listening tonight. Allah wrote the name before you ever felt the need. Most people believe the story of marriage begins the day two people meet. They imagine that love begins with a conversation, a message, or the moment two strangers notice each other. But the truth is much deeper than that. In Islam, nothing important in our lives begins by accident. Every major part of our story is already known by Allah, long before it appears in our lives. Your marriage is one of those things. Long before your heart ever imagined marriage, Allah already knew the person who would one day stand beside you. Before you ever felt lonely, before you ever made a dua asking for a spouse, before you ever wondered who your future husband or wife might be, Allah already knew. He knew the name of the person. He knew the city they would grow up in. He knew their personality, their character, and the kind of heart they would have. He knew the struggles they would face in life that would shape who they become. He knew the lessons they would learn, the mistakes they would grow from, and the experiences that would build their character. And at the same time, Allah was guiding your life as well. While you were growing up, learning, struggling, and becoming the person you are today, the other person was also living their own journey somewhere in the world. Two completely separate lives, two different families, two different paths, but both moving under the same divine plan. Sometimes people feel worried about their future spouse. They wonder where that person is. They wonder if they will ever meet the right one. They wonder if time is passing too quickly. But the believer remembers something powerful. Nothing that Allah has written for you can miss you. If Allah has written someone to be your spouse, no distance in the world can prevent that meeting from happening at the right time. And no human being can take what Allah has already written for you. This is why believers find peace in trusting Allah's timing. Because the meeting between two hearts does not happen randomly. It happens at the moment Allah decides both lives are ready. And sometimes, Laylatul Qadr becomes one of the nights when that unseen story quietly moves forward. A night when destinies are written. A night when doors begin to open. A night when a simple dua can become the beginning of a future you cannot yet see. Laylatul Qadr is when futures quietly shift. Most nights pass quietly, people sleep, hours move forward. Nothing seems different, but Laylatul Qadr is not like other nights. It is a night when the unseen world becomes closer than we realize. Allah describes this night as better than 1,000 months. That means one night of sincere worship on Laylatul Qadr is more valuable than more than 80 years of worship. Just imagine that. One night, more valuable than a lifetime. But the greatness of Laylatul Qadr is not only about reward, it is also about what happens in the unseen. Allah tells us that on this night, every matter is decreed. The angels descend carrying the commands that will unfold throughout the coming year. Things that people cannot see. Events that will slowly appear in people's lives over the next months. Opportunities that will suddenly open. Problems that will quietly disappear. Meetings that will change someone's path forever. And sometimes the believer does not realize that a simple moment in their future began with a dua on this night. A job that appeared unexpectedly, a difficulty that was removed, a door that opened after years of being closed, or even the moment when two people who were strangers suddenly cross paths. Many love stories people see in life look ordinary from the outside. Two people meet, they start talking, families become involved, marriage happens. But what people do not see is the invisible preparation that happened long before that meeting. Sometimes that story began years earlier, with someone raising their hands in the darkness of the night and asking Allah for a righteous spouse. Sometimes it began with tears in sujood when no one else was watching. Sometimes it began with a sincere dua made during Laylatul Qadr, because Laylatul Qadr is a night when the doors between the servant and Allah feel closer. The heart becomes softer, the world becomes quieter, and the believer speaks honestly to their Lord, not with perfect words, not with complicated language, just with sincerity. Allah, guide me to what is best for my life. Allah, grant me a spouse who will protect my faith. Allah, write for me a future filled with peace and barakah. And Allah hears every word. The believer may not see the answer immediately. Days may pass, months may pass, even years may pass. But what Allah writes always unfolds at the exact time it was meant to appear. This is why the believer treats Laylatul Qadr with such seriousness, because on this night, futures quietly shift. Paths begin to change. Doors begin to move. And sometimes a simple dua made in the silence of this night becomes the beginning of a life story that no one could have planned except Allah. The person you marry will shape your entire destiny. Many people spend years planning their future. They think about education. They think about career. They think about money, success, and stability. These things are important, but there is one decision in life that quietly shapes almost every part of your future: the person you marry. Marriage is not just about love or companionship. It is about the person who will walk beside you every single day of your life. The person who will see you at your strongest and at your weakest. The person who will share your home, your struggles, your hopes, and your fears. And over time, the person you marry begins to shape your environment, your habits, and even your faith. A righteous spouse can become one of the greatest blessings Allah gives a believer. They remind you to pray when you become distracted. They encourage patience when life becomes difficult. They calm your heart when stress begins to overwhelm you. They help protect your faith when the world tries to pull you away from it. A good spouse does not just make life easier. They help you become a better Muslim. They support your connection with Allah. They encourage you to grow, to improve, and to stay firm on the straight path. But the opposite is also true. The wrong spouse can slowly turn life into constant emotional exhaustion. They can fill your home with tension instead of peace. They can pull your focus toward arguments, frustration, and sadness. They can weaken your motivation for worship. They can make the path toward Allah feel heavier instead of easier. This is why Islam places so much importance on choosing the right spouse. The Prophet taught believers that one of the greatest blessings in this world is a righteous spouse. A spouse who brings peace to the heart. A spouse who helps build a home filled with mercy, patience, and remembrance of Allah. Because when a marriage is built on faith, its effects go far beyond the two people involved. It shapes the future of an entire family. It shapes the children who grow up in that home. It shapes the environment where faith, character, and values are passed to the next generation. And this is why asking Allah for the right spouse is such a powerful dua. Because the person you marry will not only share your life, they will influence the direction of your entire destiny. And on nights like Laylatul Qadr, when believers raise their hands and ask Allah for what is best, one sincere dua for a righteous spouse can become the beginning of a future filled with peace, faith, and barakah. A delay often means Allah is preparing both hearts. One of the quiet struggles many people carry in their hearts is the feeling of delay. They look around and see others getting married. They see friends starting families. They see people their age moving forward with their lives. And slowly, a question begins to appear in their mind. Why not me yet? They start wondering if something is wrong. Maybe they feel they are too late. Maybe they feel forgotten. Maybe they feel that everyone else's story is moving forward, except theirs. But the believer understands something deeper about the way Allah writes our lives. Delay is not always rejection. Sometimes delay is preparation. Allah does not simply bring two people together randomly. Marriage is not just a meeting between two individuals. It is the meeting of two hearts, two personalities, two families, and two life journeys. And for something that important, Allah prepares people before He brings them together. Sometimes Allah uses time to shape a person's character. A person might still be learning patience. They might still be growing emotionally. They might still be developing the maturity needed to build a healthy marriage. Sometimes Allah allows someone to go through difficulties so they become stronger. A person may experience heartbreak that teaches them wisdom. They may face struggles that make them more compassionate, and they may learn lessons that help them become a better partner in the future. And while you are going through your own journey of growth, the other person is also going through theirs. Maybe they are learning responsibility. Maybe they are building their stability. Maybe Allah is guiding them closer to faith so that when they meet you, they are a better person than they once were. Two lives growing in different places, two hearts being shaped by different experiences, both slowly becoming ready. And when the right moment arrives, Allah allows those two paths to finally meet. This is why believers trust the timing of Allah, because Allah does not just bring people together. He prepares them for each other first. He removes things from their hearts that would harm the relationship. He teaches them lessons that will help them build a peaceful home. He strengthens them so they can support one another through life's challenges. And when that preparation is complete, what once felt like a long delay suddenly reveals itself as perfect timing. This is why patience is so important, because sometimes the person meant for you already exists somewhere in this world. But Allah is still shaping both of your hearts, still teaching both of you lessons, still guiding both of you toward the moment when your lives finally cross at the exact time He has written. And when that moment arrives, you may look back at the years of waiting and realize something beautiful. Allah was not delaying your story. He was preparing it. A single dua can move. What effort cannot human beings naturally believe that effort controls results? We plan carefully. We search for opportunities. We try to manage every step of our future. And effort is important. Islam encourages people to work, to try, and to take responsibility for their lives. But there is something every believer eventually learns. Human effort has limits. There are moments in life when you try everything you can, and the situation still does not change. You search for the right opportunity, but doors stay closed. You try to fix a problem, but it keeps returning. You look for the right person, but nothing seems to move forward. And in those moments, people sometimes feel helpless. But the believer remembers something powerful. There is a door that effort alone cannot open, the door of dua. Dua is not just asking. Dua is placing your trust in the one who controls every outcome. When a believer raises their hands and sincerely asks Allah, they are turning toward the one who controls hearts, timing, and destiny. Allah can open a path that no human effort could create. He can bring people into your life in ways you never expected. He can remove obstacles that seemed impossible to overcome. He can turn a situation that looked completely closed into something beautiful. And Laylatul Qadr is one of the nights when dua carries even greater weight. It is a night when mercy spreads across the earth, a night when angels descend, a night when believers stand in prayer with hearts that are soft and sincere. And sometimes, in the quiet darkness of that night, someone raises their hands and makes a simple dua. Allah, guide me to the spouse who will bring peace to my life. Allah, protect me from relationships that would harm my faith. Allah, write for me a marriage filled with mercy, patience, and barakah. The words may be simple, the moment may seem small, but Allah hears every sincere call. And sometimes that one moment of sincerity becomes the turning point in a person's life. Days pass, months pass, life continues, and suddenly, a door appears that was never there before. A meeting happens. A conversation begins. Two lives that were once completely separate begin moving toward each other. People may call it coincidence, but the believer understands something deeper. What began that story may have been a dua whispered to Allah on a night when the heavens were open and mercy filled the earth. Because when Allah decides to open a door, no effort in the world can stop it. And sometimes, one sincere dua can move what years of human effort never could. Ask for a spouse who protects your faith. When people think about marriage, many of their first thoughts are about appearance, personality, or success. They imagine someone attractive, someone impressive, someone who looks good in the eyes of others. But the believer understands something deeper. The most important quality in a spouse is not beauty, wealth, or status. It is faith. Because the person you marry will influence your relationship with Allah every single day of your life. Think about that carefully. The person who wakes up beside you, the person you speak to every day, the person who shares your home, your struggles, and your private moments. That person will either strengthen your connection with Allah or slowly weaken it. A righteous spouse becomes a source of protection for your faith. When you feel lazy about prayer, they remind you gently. When life becomes stressful, they encourage patience instead of anger. When the world begins to distract you, they help bring your focus back to what truly matters. They remind you of Allah, not only through words, but through their character, through their honesty, through their kindness, through their patience during difficult moments. A righteous spouse helps build a home where Allah is remembered, a home where prayer is normal, a home where respect, mercy, and forgiveness are part of everyday life. And that kind of environment changes everything. Because when a home is filled with remembrance of Allah, it becomes a place of peace instead of tension. It becomes a place where hearts feel safe. It becomes a place where children grow up seeing faith as something beautiful. But if a person chooses a spouse without caring about faith, the opposite can happen. A home can slowly fill with stress, arguments, and emotional exhaustion. Distractions can replace prayer. Small problems can grow into constant conflict. And what was meant to be a place of peace can slowly become a source of pressure. This is why the Prophet taught believers to prioritize faith when choosing a spouse, because faith is what protects a marriage when emotions change. Feelings can rise and fall. Attraction can change over time. But a heart that fears Allah continues to treat their spouse with kindness, even during difficult moments. That is the kind of marriage that lasts. That is the kind of marriage that brings barakah. And that is why Laylatul Qadr is the perfect time to ask Allah for something deeper than what the eyes can see. Do not only ask for a spouse who looks good. Ask for a spouse who helps you become a better Muslim. Ask for someone who will stand beside you in prayer. Ask for someone who will remind you of Allah when you forget. Ask for someone whose presence brings calmness to your heart. Because the greatest love in this life is not the one that only fills your emotions. The greatest love is the one that protects your faith and helps guide both hearts closer to Allah. What Allah writes arrives with ease and dignity. One of the biggest confusions many people face when it comes to relationships is this question in their hearts. If it feels so difficult, does that mean I should fight harder to keep it? People often believe that struggle means something is meant to be. So they hold on tightly. They chase attention. They constantly try to prove their worth. They keep sacrificing their peace just to hold on to someone. But the believer learns something important about the way Allah writes things. What Allah truly writes for you does not require you to destroy your dignity to keep it. It does not require you to beg someone to stay. It does not require you to shrink your values or compromise your faith. When something is truly written by Allah, it arrives with a certain kind of calmness. There is clarity instead of constant confusion. There is mutual respect instead of emotional exhaustion. There is peace instead of endless anxiety. This does not mean that marriage will never have challenges. Every relationship will face tests. But there is a difference between normal challenges and constant struggle just to feel valued. Sometimes people stay in situations where they are constantly questioning themselves. They wonder why they feel ignored. They wonder why they feel replaceable. They wonder why love feels like a competition. But the believer remembers something powerful. What Allah has written for you will never miss you. No one can take what Allah has already written for your life. And what passes you by was never meant to stay in your story. This truth brings a deep sense of peace to the heart, because it removes the need to chase what was never meant for you. Instead, It allows you to trust Allah's wisdom. Sometimes Allah removes someone from your life not because you lost something valuable, but because He is protecting you from something that would have harmed your future. Sometimes a door closes because Allah is guiding you towards something better. And when the right person finally enters your life, you will notice something different. You will not feel like you are constantly fighting to keep them. You will not feel like you must prove your worth every day. The connection will come with dignity, with respect, with a sense of ease that feels natural, not forced. Because when Allah writes two people for each other, the path between them begins to open. Doors appear, circumstances align, families meet, and what once felt impossible suddenly becomes simple. This is why believers place their trust in Allah instead of exhausting themselves chasing what is uncertain. Because what Allah has written for you is already on its way, and when it arrives, it will come with a dignity and peace that no forced relationship could ever give. Lesson 8. Tonight might be the night. Your dua is heard. There are many nights in a person's life. Nights when we sleep without thinking much about them. Nights that pass quietly and disappear into memory. But Laylatul Qadr is not an ordinary night. It is a night when the heavens feel closer. A night when the earth is filled with peace. A night when angels descend carrying mercy from Allah. It is the night that the Quran describes as better than 1,000 months. That means one sincere moment of worship on this night is more valuable than decades of ordinary worship. Just think about how special that is. One night that can change the weight of an entire lifetime. And this is why the believers search for Laylatul Qadr with such sincerity. Because they know that on this night, Allah listens to the hearts that turn to Him. Not the perfect hearts, not the hearts without mistakes, but the sincere hearts. The hearts that come to Allah with humility and honesty. Tonight may be the night when someone raises their hands and asks Allah for guidance. Tonight may be the night when someone asks Allah to remove pain from their life. Tonight may be the night when someone asks Allah to guide them toward the person who will bring peace into their future. And Allah hears every word. He hears the dua spoken loudly. He hears the dua whispered quietly. He even hears the dua that never reaches the lips, but lives inside the heart. Sometimes people believe their duas are too small. They think asking for a good spouse is not as important as other things. But Allah cares about every part of your life. Your faith, your struggles, your hopes, your future. And marriage is one of the biggest parts of a person's life journey. The person you marry will influence your happiness, your peace, your home, and even the environment where your children grow up. So asking Allah for the right spouse is not a small dua. It is one of the most meaningful things a believer can ask. Tonight might be the night when Allah writes the next chapter of your life. A night when a door begins to open that you cannot yet see. A night when the path toward the person meant for you quietly begins to unfold. But Laylatul Qadr is not just about asking for things. It is also about surrender. It is about trusting that Allah knows what is best for your future. When you raise your hands tonight, ask with sincerity. Ask Allah to guide you to the person who will strengthen your faith. Ask Allah to protect you from relationships that would harm your heart. Ask Allah to write for you a marriage filled with mercy, patience, and barakah. Because the most beautiful love stories are not created by chance. They are written by Allah, and sometimes they begin with a quiet dua made in the darkness of Laylatul Qadr. When the world is silent, the angels are descending, and the doors of mercy are wide open. As this night slowly passes, remember something powerful. Laylatul Qadr is not just a night you witness. It is a night you speak on, a night when hearts open, a night when believers turn to Allah with a sincerity they may not feel at any other time of the year. Tonight, somewhere in the world, millions of people are asking Allah for things they deeply need. Some are asking for forgiveness. Some are asking for relief from pain. Some are asking for guidance. And some are quietly asking Allah for the person who will share their life, protect their faith, and bring peace to their future. And Allah hears every single one of those prayers. Nothing you say to Allah is ever ignored. No tear is unnoticed. No sincere dua disappears into silence, even if the answer does not appear immediately. Allah writes every sincere call in a way that will unfold at the perfect time. So tonight, do not hold back your heart. Speak to Allah honestly. Ask Him to guide you toward the spouse who will bring you closer to Him. Ask Him to protect you from relationships that would weaken your faith. Ask Him to write for you a marriage filled with mercy, patience, and barakah. Because the most beautiful love stories are not created by luck. They are written by Allah long before two people ever meet. And sometimes, they begin with a quiet dua made on a blessed night when the heavens are open, the angels are descending, and Allah's mercy fills the earth. So before this night ends, raise your hands and ask,